Hello! Welcome to the Sunday Shelfie. I'm Nikki, the obsessive bookseller, and this week we are on week one of my romance collection. I pick them up very seldomly, like maybe one a year, but for some reason can't bring myself to let them go and just go digital when I get in that specific mood, because it took me so long to collect all of these. And actually, this is already the shortened version of what I used to have. I got rid of at least 200 titles about a year ago, and this is the cream of the crop, the best of what was left behind. And I think maybe that purge was just so recent that I'm not ready to let more go. I would like to make room in this library for a really comfy chair. I've got the most uncomfortable little rocking chair from when I had my first baby, and it was great for that, but for sitting and reading, oh, it's so uncomfortable. But I don't have a lot of space. If I let go some books and kind of get rid of a couple of the smaller bookshelves over here, then perhaps I can put in a nice chair and actually spend time reading in this room. Wouldn't that be a novelty? Anyway, the first step is always figuring out what you have. I think I've read maybe 5% of the titles up here, and so I'll go through them, share with you which ones I'm actually looking forward to reading eventually, and yeah, give you just a general tour like we've been doing. So let's go look at some books. So a bit of a logistics problem. Like, that top shelf is what we're looking at, and I can't reach it and hold the camera at the same time. So I'm going to bring everything down because I'm doing a massive rearrange next week anyway. I'm going to get started and start pulling these titles down, and I will go through them as I bring them down. First world problems. Okay, this is great. These are all down from the high shelf across the middle one here, which means I can actually use a tripod to film. So let's get started on the end with one that I have actually read. Oh, look. A signed bookmark. That's rad. The first book in this series, I Want It That Way, you can see a theme here, was actually pretty good. I had a few issues with pacing near the end, but it prompted me to pick up the second and the third one. I discovered, after all of these years of collecting paranormal romance, that I actually prefer the new adult genre. This one is probably my all-time favorite new adult romance that I've read. It's the second one in the trilogy. They're only loosely related. As far as like what love interest I prefer, the type of story I prefer, this one nailed every single aspect of it. So yes, I quite like this one. Anna Guire is already a favorite author from her Sarantha Jack series, Perdition. I even love the Razorland young adult stuff, and so yeah, she works for me a lot. But then stuff like this comes around, and I'm not even sure if I finished this book. It was just typical paranormal romance where there wasn't a lot of substance. I think it was like very insta-lovey, and I supported the self-published version of it for her because I thought I was going to absolutely love it. But yeah, as it turns out, she's kind of hit or miss in that regard. Losing It by Cora Mack. This is a new adult. This was one of the authors who was at the Vegas Valley Book Festival. It was just when I was getting into the genre, and she is one of the more popular ones in the genre, so I believe, yep, signed copy, so that's kind of cool. Hopefully I'll end up liking that one eventually. Then a random saucy romance, The Pleasure Exchange by Catherine Fox. How much you want to bet that that's a pen name? When I was actively collecting romance novels, I always went for the ones that were a little unique. So there are so many romance novels, and they all seem to have the same basic storyline where the arc is, are they going to get together? And so I'm most interested in the ones that are infuse maybe a little more world building, so that at least I have something else interesting to read about amidst the same predictable plot points. But anyway, so to that end, we've got a mermaid book, The Mermaid Kiss by Joey Hill, and then there are some tentacles around there and wings. Mermaid and angel combination. I don't know where the tentacles are. That must be the villain. So, anyway, totally random. Have not read anything by this author yet. But vampires. More vampire, probably in the same series. Yes. Unique romance. There you have it. And then here, Linda Winstead Jones. I don't know what it is about this author, but I feel like I'm going to like her. And I don't know why. It's not based on anything that the cover reveals. By the way, this guy's face, you work in the bookstore long enough, this guy is on at least 10% of the romance covers, at least back when I was working. I see him frickin' everywhere. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's on the spine of a few more that I've got here. So he gets around. The Sons of Destiny series. I think these are really pretty as far as like a spine appeal is concerned. What I like about this one, I have read 4 of 8. It's kind of a portal fantasy romance. So these 7 brothers all live in this castle in a different realm, and women from our world become the mates or whatever for them in here. And I like that each book plays off of the other, so it's an actual series as opposed to a set of standalones. These ones were well and good. The 2 brothers I am most interested in are these 2, but I have to read further to get to that point. And true to my word, I've picked up maybe 1 a year, but I haven't touched it for about 3 or 4. So it took me forever to get this far. It'll probably take me another 10 years to get to these. But yeah, this brother in particular, very interesting. One of the only enigmas. Now, these do not... How do I put this? I think they are trying to take themselves seriously, but the content is just so funny in some instances that I would not put these in the very serious, full of a lot of depth category, but they are a lot of fun. So we've got, that might be that dude's face. I don't know, can't tell. Anyway, so yeah. I don't know. I think it is. I'm just saying. Here's something cheeky and different. Demons Are Forever. I think I got this one on bargain. It says Confessions of a Demon Hunting Soccer Mom. I don't believe it's the first one in the series, but it's very different from the type of stuff you normally see in the section, so I snagged that one. Another new adult, I think. Yeah, this was another one that I got at that Book Valley Festival. So I don't know anything about this author, but like I said, new adult works for me. Probably because there's enough other things to relate to. And they're dealing with real world problems, but with a romance edge. Like, everything is plausible most of the time. And this is the first one I read in that category. Got this as an ARC. Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire. The author is known for behaving a little badly towards fans. From what I understand, she got into a lot of arguments with people. But whatever, I really like the book. I am pretty sure I read the second one as well. And yeah, really enjoyed those. Picked up the other ones in the series. Have not read these ones yet. And then there's a Beautiful Wedding. It's a novella. I believe it takes place after one of these 2. And I think I did read that one. So, and then she has kind of a dystopian mystery. And so I already know I like the writing, so I was willing to give something else a try by her as well. And then Easy by Tamara Weber. Whoop, this one's also signed. This one was incredibly popular when it came out, so I am hoping that when I'm in the mood, eventually I will really enjoy those. Okay, now we get into the mass market paperbacks. And a lot of these don't have covers. I've explained it before in other Sunday Shelfies, but I figure romance might bring a few new viewers. So when you work as a bookseller, there's a system set up with the publisher that if the mass markets don't sell, we strip the cover and send it back for credit for the publisher and then recycle the rest of the book. They do that because it is so much more expensive to ship the books back, and then they probably end up just trashing them anyway. Because, paperbacks, there is not any margin on paperbacks. They are simply there to draw you into the store. In any case, as a bookseller, I got to save some from the recycler, and that's how I ended up with most of this collection. And this series here, oh, and see, it's a program that really works in their favor, because if I bring home strips for a series I'm interested in, I am more likely to actually purchase first books in the series and whatnot, or continuations. But Witch's Fire by Anya Bast, I am not expecting a lot from this series, but the reason I still have them is because I think the covers are so pretty. I love these covers. And by covers, I mean the spines. I have kept them on my shelves, even though they are indeed available as digital copies, but yeah, I just really like the look of them. Annette Blair. This is an author who came in and did a book signing, and one of the better interactions I've had with an author. And I don't know if she was buttering me up, but she said, "Oh, Nikki, I really like that name. I'm going to use that as a character." So if you've read her series, let me know if she ended up using it, because I think that would have been pretty cool. Not that Nikki is super unique of a name, but yeah, she was very charming. If I read more romance, I would have read her already, for sure. Undead and Unwed by Mary Janice Davison. I like the idea for this series, and I'm hanging on to this one, but I picked up, she has another mermaid series, and I started reading that one, and okay, y'all, I am not a prude. Like, there are a lot of things in romance novels that I'm just like, okay, it is what it is, but that one for me seemed just a little trashy, just in how things were explained. There was something very off-putting about it, so I put it down, donated it, and am hesitant to pick this one up because, I don't know. Like, there are trashy romances in the sense of, like, what type of sexual content is presented. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the way that this woman talked to her mother. I'm talking about the way she described sexual encounters. That is what put me off to it. I don't even think I got to any of the sex scenes in that before putting it down. So anyway, this is an author I've been long interested in, but that one, like, really scared me off. The Crescent Moon. This is the very first paranormal romance I ever picked up. It was back when I was very staunch, like, oh, I don't like anything with werewolves and vampires. I'm not interested in that at all. But that's before I realized that there was a, like, romance element to it sometimes, and found myself interested. I brought this one home as a strip and read it in a single sitting. Very much enjoyed it. So went back and got copies of the rest of the series, and as you can see, I've read most of them. I mean, they're nothing to write home about necessarily, but I quite enjoyed them. My favorite part is there is an element of continuity, so characters you meet here show up as the series progresses. And I was kind of saving these for a rainy day, but now it has been over 10 years since I read these, so I'm not going to go back and reread necessarily, but these just don't have the same appeal because, yeah, I've already forgotten who all the characters who might make a cameo are anyway. And then she also has kind of a little post-apocalyptic romance series here, which I am interested in. Elisa Hendricks, Star Crash. I do have a few futuristic romances here because, like I said, I like the infusion of a little bit more world building to keep me interested. Well, I might give that one a chance. Molly Harper. This is one of my best friend's favorite romance writers. The first one is called How to Flirt with a Naked Werewolf, and it was really delightful. Super cute. And this is The Art of Seducing a Naked Werewolf. I haven't read this one yet, but I'm hanging on to it because I have a feeling I'm going to like it. Great writer. The humor's on point. They're cheeky but not overdone. The romance is actually believable, at least in the one that I read, so there we go. Stormwalker by Allison James. I'm interested in this one for what is hopefully a cool magic system. And then this one here, Afterlight, The Dark Ink Chronicles by L. Jasper. I don't know much about it, but I think when I was researching it had more of like a murder mystery aspect. Well, that's why that's on my list. And then another Linda Winstead Jones, part of that same series with the dude that's on every cover, which we haven't seen him yet. I may have unhauled most of the books that had him. Virginia Cantra, The Children of the Sea series. I picked this one up on a whim and read it, and quite liked it. It was a good little story, and I'm hoping that the rest of them will be just as delightful. I truly don't remember much about it other than just enjoying myself while I read it. Which, honestly, what more can you expect? But Jade Lee, I believe they are Asian-inspired paranormal romances. Dragonbound, the ones with dragons in the title. Dragonborn, specifically interested in those. But I just think the idea for these are quite lovely. I've never cracked the spine on one of them, but I have quite a few of them. It's one of those cases where if I really like her, then yay, I've got a lot of them. If I don't like her, then yay, I've got more room. Got Eternal Nights by Patti OShea. It's another futuristic romance, and just the whole vibe of this book makes me feel like it's going to be an absolute riot to read. Not because it's trying to be funny. Okay, Gina Showalter. I like this author. Her plots have a tendency to be really thin, and the romance unbelievable, but I really appreciate her creativity, so I've collected a lot of her works. I've read a couple of them. I unhauled them, but The Heart of the Dragon, there's an Atlantis series. I read those, enjoyed them well enough. The Pleasure Slave, I think she falls in love with a genie or something to that effect, and liked that one enough to hang on to it for the time being. But she just has a lot of creative ideas. There's an Awaken Me Darkly one here. It's probably the series I'll pick up next from her. Has something to do with aliens, so cool. A sci-fi infusion, I'll take it. Jordan Summers, Red is the book. It's published by Tor. Paranormal romance. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit more well-written than the rest. That's based on absolutely nothing, but that's why I've hung on to it. I'm like, oh. So that means the marketing department did a good job. This one's called Sex and the Single Ghost by Tawny Taylor. I believe it's more of a contemporary romance, kind of set new adult, like in college or whatever. This series, futuristic romance. I don't believe I have the first book. I have kept them because I accumulated these as strips over the course of several years, and so I felt very proud of myself that I managed to collect almost all of them. So it's just the book hoarder in me that keeps these. I don't think I have really any interest of getting to them, especially since they're massive. Well, I guess the writing's kind of big, but like I really just don't have that much time and energy to spend on this particular genre. But we shall see. The jury is still out. They managed to survive all of the purges so far. And then this one's called Wild and Hexy by Vicky Lewis Thompson. And it's kind of your typical cheeky romance. I like the idea of witches and stuff, so hanging on to that one. And then Lynn Vale. I would really like to like this author. Haven't tried anything from her yet. Her books are, pretty short, concise. But this is another one that I've kept instead of, oh, this must be the first one, because it's got the cover. This is another one that I've kept because I have so many of them, and I'm hoping if I like them, it'll justify letting me keep them a bit longer. This is a priority author for me. I read her series Stray, and although the main character is kind of an idiot in the first book, they only get better from there. I think it's a series of 6 books. It's fantastic. One of my favorite things I've ever read, actually, which is surprising because it's a paranormal romance. But it has enough, it's one of those that could have really been shelved in either section because it has enough main like overall plot points to sustain an urban fantasy sense, but I do get why they put it in this section. But in any case, this author, I also loved her Menagerie series, which is urban fantasy, kind of a, yeah, I don't know, modern fantasy, whatever. But she works for me on all accounts, and yeah, can't wait to read more from her. So yes, of all the things that I've shown you today, Rachel Vincent's probably highest priority. And I don't even know if this is a first book. It's kind of a random one. Okay, Shiloh Walker, Through the Veil. Another paranormal romance that I'm hoping is going to have a little more substance. I honestly perhaps may not have hung on to any of these had this writer's series not surprised me so much in such a positive way. I may have been over the series altogether, but every now and then you find one you really love, and it makes you scared to let go of anything else. This is evidence that sometimes giving people free books really does lead to sales. So my boss went to a Barnes & Noble managers conference and brought back a ton of books for the employees, and this was one of them. I snagged it because it was kind of interesting and free, but then thought, oh cool, well that one has a cover, I need to go back and buy the rest of the series. And I tell you, as I sit here today, I don't think I have any, pretend like that didn't happen. I don't feel like I have any interest at all in reading this series. I think it probably has more of a good focus on world building. I think that's the main thing I heard about it, is if you like paranormal romance but you want something with a little more rich, in-depth world building, this has that, supposedly. But yeah, at this moment, it is very low on the priority list, but the only reason I've kept them is because I have so many with the covers on it. So, there you have it. A tour of my romance collection. Thank you so much for joining me on today's tour. It's really funny going through all of these books through the lens of someone who doesn't feel the need to hoard anything as much as I used to. I think I might be getting ready to let quite a few of those go, especially if it means that I can make room for a comfy chair in this room. Now that I've gone through all of them in detail, there are probably about 10 titles in there that I am actually excited to pick up. And the rest I've been just hanging on to because I had the space. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see what happens with that. If I only read one a year, then 10 books, unread books, ought to serve me pretty well, because it's quite a few years of reading there. A lot of change is going to be happening in my library here soon, and I'm really excited to take you along with that journey. And just a heads up, we are continuing the Sunday Shelfie series, but we are taking a break next week while I rearrange my unread collection for a new series I've got coming up. But then after that, we'll be diving into my young adult section. So thank you so much for joining me on this tour, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye.